Hello, everyone. I'm Dasari. I'm from Web3 Foundation. But before I start my talk, I'd like to give a little bit of background so that you can relate to me as a speaker. So I did my PhD in computer vision at University at Buffalo. There I had exposure to XR, and then I was a teaching faculty at University of Vermont for 3 years, and I pivoted my career into blockchain technology, and now I work at Web3 Foundation. So yeah, both the industries are sort of multi-billion-dollar industries right now. Both are emerging industries in a way, where XR is focusing on improving the user experience, the way users interact with reality or realities. So Web3 is trying to make those interactions much more fairer, so I would say Web3 is like this broad buzzword that many people say different things. If you ask different people, they come up with different definitions. But one underlying thing how Web3 works is through blockchain, right? So Web3 is powered by blockchain, where code is believed to be the law. So code defines how interactions sort of happen in this new form of internet. And for those of you who are pretty new to blockchain in general, I have this slide just to show you that everything that needs to be set in stone digitally, you can put that on a blockchain. And how does that work? You can have data in these blocks, and then they are linked to an earlier block with what we call hashes. And even if you change tiny bits of data in one block, the whole chain is going to break. And the reason why this is so effective is that this chain sort of lives across different nodes in the world, and nobody has control over all of them. So the chain will live, and the truth will sort of prevail in a way. So that's the blockchain. And how it ties into Web3, it's the new way of envisioning internet. So far, we just had, earlier the web pages were just read-only, and then users had the option to write content to it. And then there's a lot of interactivity that grew out of that. We had apps like Facebook, Twitter. And the problem with that is the content that you put on there, it's not yours anymore. So you're basically, if you think of the revenue model of YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, it's you as a content creator who's making those apps interesting, and you're not sort of being incentivized or rewarded enough for your fair share for that contribution. So that's where we envision Web3, where you typically own your data, everything, your activity, your content, you're the owner, and Web3 is about bringing the ownership back to the user. And I need to put this disclaimer. So Web3 is not cryptocurrency and all the scams associated with it. I'm talking to you as a technical educator. So the technology itself has a use case where it could be used as currency, but it's not all about cryptocurrency. So, and it's bigger than blockchain technology as well, because blockchain, it's just a data structure at the end of the day. It's a way of organizing data across different computers in the world. Fine, what can you do with it, right? So Web3 takes into account all of these advancements we have made over decades in computer science. Encrypted messaging, it's very much needed. Cryptographic signing of data. I mean, we've had digital signatures for a long time now. How do we use them effectively in the way we interact with each other? Distributed storage, so you don't want to lose the XR assets that you have by putting them on a cloud, and somehow that cloud gets hacked. So how do you sort of make the storage distributed so that you own the data, and then the data is sort of distributed and available for you? And self-sovereign identity, this is what I mentioned earlier. So you, as a user of an application, decide what information you want to share with that app, right? So right now, you have plenty of prompts on an app, and then you say accept all, and then just get over with it. But yeah, so this is going to like improve that aspect of that. And yeah, and a lot of the networking is done via peer-to-peer networks, so that you don't have to rely on one network provider. And distributed computing. So all of this ties into XR very well. I'll show you shortly how. So in terms of like industry outlook towards each other, so there's a chain that used to be called as Elrond, which renamed itself as Metaverse X, mainly focusing on like XR applications. I don't work for them, but I'm just showing you like, there's like some synergy to be found between both the industries. They just had like a three-day conference in Romania just last week. And yeah, so one thing I want to also highlight is this synergy between Web3 and XR can be done via this, again, like a buzzword like NFT. The first thing that people remember or notice about NFTs are they're like monkey images, right? So the point is like NFT is not just a monkey image or a ape. It's more tied to like the concept of uniqueness. Like how do you prove that a certain digital asset is unique, right? So how do you say that you own that digital asset? And that sort of comes from, like, again, like a computer science concept, which, again, it can't be tweaked. So, for instance, I have like Web3 Foundation with just like one space in between. So it produces a digital fingerprint that looks like that. If I remove that tiny space in that string, I get this entirely new fingerprint for it. So these two fingerprints are saying that that is a unique set of bytes, right? So using this concept, take any sort of digital asset, image, video, you have patents or papers, anything which is like a set of like bytes or bits, it will have like a unique fingerprint, and you can tie your self-sovereign identity to that particular fingerprint and claim ownership on that. So that's how all of this NFT pipeline works. And the beauty of this is, again, the data itself is not stored on the blockchain, just the fingerprint of that is stored on the blockchain, which is redundant on several nodes. Fine, so how does this help like, XR thrive? So there's this concept of creator economy. Now the problem with like central platforms like Meta is trying to create like a metaverse is that, okay, so I spend a lot of hours, I create this beautiful XR asset, and I put it on the Meta server, and now I'm at the helm of Meta to give me rewards, like my fair share of how it is being used. So I had this personal experience with Adobe. Like I used to be a grad student in Buffalo, and I was a faculty in Vermont, beautiful places. So I used to put this stock photography in Adobe. I used to get 10 cents, and they sold it for $10, right? So where is the fairness in that? So here, like I could have like marketplaces where I can post my picture. For sure the ownership is tracked, and the creator economy works this way. So now I would get like $1, and I'd be selling it for $1.10. The 10 cents would go in maintaining the network. So it's a win-and-win situation for both the consumer and the producer. And this digital ownership, again, it's backed by the public-private cryptography. So if anyone has downloaded a Web3-based wallet, you would understand what I'm talking about here. And yeah, so how the creator economy is thriving in XR-based Web3, like we have Decentraland. That's a popular example that I can give you. So there you have all of these assets are created by individuals or entities. It's like a decentralized land. So there is no superpower god like Meta that can shut down the server or take away the ownership of this particular asset from you. So you create it. You have like you have like an asset there. You can rent it. You can sell it. And all of this is sort of managed and powered by the blockchain technology. And yeah, so this changes the landscape of marketplaces, right? So we have marketplaces where you as the creator or the owner can list your assets, and people will actually interact with them, buy them, or it'll move hands. And all of this is actually happening now. It's all real money, and there are marketplaces for such digital assets that you can tap into. And this is the market on the Decentraland that I showed to you earlier. And if you think about it, every major industry had like a very big overhaul over the past few decades. Financial industry is the one that's still lagging behind. It's a shame that banks can't let me send money on a weekend. They just have to have somebody check my transactions on Monday morning at 9 o'clock. So all of that is disappearing with Web3 and blockchain technology. So right now there's about $25 billion liquidity that is through just this one specific stable coin, which is called USDC. There are others as well. That's out there that can be sent to each other within like seconds. And there are 12 trillion transactions that have happened so far. So I'm just showing you the vision of how all of this is going to tie into our lives, right? So, XR hit like peak interest with the Pokemon Go. People started to play that game everywhere. And then Web3 hit its peak in terms of gaming with Axie Infinity. So there's some real money there as well. So think of like all of these. There's some gold to be found in this intersection. So if you could create like an app like Pokemon Go with these sort of assets where people actually own them and then sort of will be able to sell them in the marketplaces, it would create a much more engaging gaming experience. Okay, so I mentioned to you a few use cases. I can give you a clear insight into what Web3 can actually give XR today, like if you wanted to explore a few options. So right now there are plenty of blockchains out there. So I represent Polkadot, which is right there. So Web3 Foundation's flagship project, and a few notable names I put them there. There are more, and then all of these networks are running in a decentralized way, right? So nobody controls these networks, so there's no kill switch to stop them. So you can deploy your code, your assets on these networks, and then they're available for you, irrespective of on what part of the globe you are. If you have access to internet, whether it's through fiber optic or Starlink, you're able to access those things from these networks. And then the self-sovereign identity. It's not something that needs to be built anymore. You already have products that you can directly use. For instance, Kilt is one of the blockchains on Polkadot. So they have a DID solution that you can buy in their tokens or through PayPal, and that integration lets you, Deloitte can actually attest to the details on that, and then you can use that to do fundraising in a Web3 fashion, without having to be stuck with the Web2 inefficiencies. So you have different ways of proving your identity in this reality and even in the metaverse. And interoperability. So this is one of the biggest use cases for XR developers and creators. So if somebody is creating an asset in one, using one software or on one platform, how do you make that asset available across other platforms, other games, right? So we already showed that use case with the blockchains themselves. So we have plenty of interoperability with assets going on. So even if you have an asset on one blockchain, you can sort of use it on the other one. In terms of money, there's $400 million worth interoperability of assets going on right now. And in terms of, so today if you want to explore, okay, I'm interested in this, what do I do with XR and Web3, you could go to Unity website where there's an XR interaction toolkit where you could integrate the decentralized technologies into your applications, right? So I'll let you like sort of explore the different options available there. So they'll point to either, one of the blockchains I mentioned to you earlier or some of the new technologies. Yeah, in terms of transaction throughput, I mentioned to you there's a huge overhaul in how finances will work in the next 4 or 5 years as I see it. So if you see, Visa is again like a centralized solution, right? So it has like servers. Every time you swipe your card, at a restaurant here, it authenticates whether you have enough balance to pay for whatever you're buying, right? So that could be done on blockchains today in much more scalable way. So right now, Visa is the most popular authenticator for that, and then they have a traffic around 10,000 transactions per second. That can easily be offloaded to like Polkadot, like for instance, and there you have like a CEO to pay, and then you have like buildings and everything to pay for. Here it's just code, right? So it's doing exactly the same job as Visa without having a need for all those extra things. So it's much more cost effective and efficient and trustless. And Visa can shut down your credit card, where here it's going to be alive all the time. Okay, so what's next for Web3 and XR? So we have something more to look forward to. That's the concept of NFT 2.0. So there are implementations for that. So I can give you some very brief examples on what this will let you do. So what you could do is, first of all, there's a lot of interest in tokenizing real-world assets. So think of all the chairs that you're sitting in today. All of those could have like a unique ID represented as an NFT. And collectively, all of these chairs could be part of the asset, the NFT that is this particular room. So you could have an NFT owning other NFTs. It sort of makes sense even in gaming, where an avatar owns its like, crown or clothes. And when you sell it, you sell them, all of them as a single entity. And and I want to talk about micropayments and royalties. This is of particular interest to creator economy in XR, because you could create like a virtual museum, and then, or you can have like a tree model created in the virtual reality. Each time somebody interacts with it in certain way, the blockchain technology will allow for a micropayment directly to the account of the creator of the tree. And this is very seamless. Like you don't need like somebody consolidating all your payments and then giving it to you. It's automatically happening behind the scene. So the royalties for usage of your assets directly in your account without any middleman, seamless interoperability. So let's say I created an asset in one platform, I could move it to the others, or others from a different platform could also use this. And composability, when somebody builds something already, it should be used and you improve on it or create something beside it. So all of these are things that will emerge with a collaboration between both the industries. And a lot of Web3 is about being open source, right? So here is one thing you can count on Web3, that you can look at the code, you can understand that there's nothing fishy going on or whatever. So even XR has like this OpenXR library. So there's a lot of scope for integration between these two libraries. And yeah, with that, I sort of have this slide again showing indeed like right now people say like we both are like a bit of buzzwords, but it's not actually true. I come from an intersection from both of them, and I'd like to see like both these industries like flourish and enable each other in ways. And yeah, so in terms of like my work itself, I work at a Web3 foundation which gives out a lot of grants, of which like few are XR related as well. And I have a few slides about like Polkadot. I'll quickly rush through them because I want to answer your questions if you have any. But yeah, so how does Web3 work in terms of like the lens of Polkadot? The reason I say it is because there's 100 different blockchains out there. So Polkadot lets you have like different blockchains run on top of it. It's like a layer 0 blockchain. we let like every single blockchain have its own use case. So there could be a metaverse or XR-related blockchain as well on working on Polkadot, and it can seamlessly talk to other blockchains which are doing, let's say, self-sovereign identity. And yeah, so I want to highlight, we already funded so many projects, and in that, like gaming and metaverse is also one of our key use case. And that's not the only use case, we have plenty of others. So if you want to check like projects related to metaverse on Polkadot, there's a way to check that as well. You can go to parachains.info. And yeah, so with that, I finished the presentation, open for questions.
Thank you very much, Radha. Web3 technology, a complex subject, but oh so much potential for the future. Does anyone have any questions for Radha here? Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So far, I have 2 questions regarding the blockchain.
Sure.
To my understanding, a blockchain has different validators.
Yeah.
And if a blockchain just have 3 validators, which is possible, so what is the decentral part of that?
Yeah, then you have to check the decentralization aspect of the blockchain solutions I provided, right? So if you look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, probably they are on the better spectrum in terms of decentralization than the other tail that you have down. So Polkadot has like 300 validators, and the picture that I showed to you, the global picture with all the nodes, so that's the validators on Polkadot. So there are metrics like what's called Nakamoto coefficient, so that tells you how many unique entities are controlling these validators. So for Polkadot, it's around like 80. So even if 2 unique entities are running it, it should run properly.
And the second question is regarding MetaMask. So
Yeah.
everybody has this as a wallet, because especially for new users, and this belongs to one single central company.
Yeah.
So what is the decentral part of it if I have it in a centralized pocket, wallet in this case?
So Polkadot doesn't use MetaMask. There are 20 different wallets. So it's only that MetaMask is mainstream. And again, this is like something, a misconception, that MetaMask only connects to their service. They actually give you an option to run your own node and connect to that one. It's only that it's hidden somewhere in between so that you don't notice it. But yeah, so it's a decentralized wallet as well. You just have to know what you're doing to access it in a decentralized way. Thank you.